Welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Yes, welcome.
I love when he does that. This is the show.
Welcome, America.
That's Vernon Glenn, by the way.
Yes, which we will introduce in just a second here. This is the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vernon Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco.
Waving my hand to all the legions of fans out there. Hello.
And Bruce McGowan,
It's good to be here.
radio sports personality of many years.
Too many years.
Too many years, yeah. Now, today's show is going to be very special because of our guest, Troy Kirby. He's going to discuss sports business. He'll be on in the next segment with us.
Wait a minute, all the Kirbys in the world, and you get Troy Kirby?
I got Troy.
Wow.
Kirby. Thanks.
No relation to Terry Kirby, the former running back for the 49ers in Miami Dolphins.
We'll find out when he gets on the air.
Could be a brother from another mother. Could be.
We can still call him T. Kirby.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Now, at each commercial break, we're going to be asking a sports trivia question where we're going to be giving away some prizes to the first 3 emails with the correct answer. The vacations are not sponsored by the radio station. And let's see here. You can listen to Sports Econ 101 on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Sports Byline USA, CRN. Just check us out at www.sportsecon101.com. Today's trivia theme is the Super Bowl, because we're going to probably do this for a couple of weeks because we're coming up to the Super Bowl.
About to be 49 of them. 49!
It's hard to believe. You know, it's really scary as I remember every one of them.
Man.
I was 14 when the first one was played, and I've covered 10 of them. I covered 10 of them between 1977 and 2000, so I was lucky. You've been to a few, Vernon, haven't you?
I've been to a few.
Yeah.
I was 5 when the first Super Bowl was
Oh,
played.
my goodness.
Do you remember that one?
No.
It was at the LA Coliseum, 63,000 showed up. The place was 2/3 full, and the Packers beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
And I believe for the first 2 years it was called the AFL NFL World Championship
That's right.
game.
It was not called the Super Bowl until the Jets upset the Baltimore Colts in Joe Namath's famous game in 19.
Guaranteed it.
Guaranteed.
Wasn't it coined by Lamar Hunt, the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs?
It was actually his child, his boy.
Playing with a Super Bowl.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly
Okay, hold on. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101.
We're rambling,
right back
aren't we?
with us. And
Good
we will
knowledge
have
there.
Troy Kirby on. Stay with us. All right, so that's our little opening.
All right.
Let me just save the file, and then we can start.
Oh man, yeah, that's right. Good.
Yeah, that's how we did it.
Good. Remember there, Vernon. That's Lamar Hunt. Yeah.
You know, I actually met his son, who's the owner of the Chiefs, right now in 2010. They own the Frisco Stadium, and I guess the MLS team that's up there.
Oh, is that right? Now he's got to be in his 50s now, then, right?
I want to say his name is Chase, and very nice guy, and was interesting to talk to because he was, you know, like usually you get referential where they'll either talk about the old man or they'll just talk about how great they are. But really was interesting just to talk about the legacy of, because I guess his father was really big into believing that soccer would eventually start to have a hold.
Yeah.
And so, you know, had kind of looked at, you know, Frisco and kind of looked at a few other things. And so had really been one of the people when the MLS had said we're going to start, that said they wouldn't sell the team,
It means Frisco,
you know,
Texas.
right away, which is one of the problems
Frisco,
that a lot of teams and leagues have is you get these owners that want to dip their toe in, and then the second the going gets tough,
They get out. Yeah. Well, that's something we might talk about, actually. It'd be kind of fun. Because it's related to the Super Bowl, too.
Okay.
like every Mariners owner we've ever had.
Yeah. Right.
For the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, Troy, stay with us. We're going to do the opening, or excuse me, the second one.
All right, here we go.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vernon Glenn.
Live and in living color.
And Bruce McGowan.
Well, we're in living color, but I don't know if we're live everywhere. Are
We're
we?
live. Look,
Okay.
look. Just say, move our hand, you can see
Okay.
ourselves.
Actually,
We're live.
Some
Okay.
stations do carry us at
I like
the time.
it.
That's
If
true.
it wasn't live, would I be able to do this?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Is this thing on?
Yeah.
It is. Okay, now, on the phone here, we have Troy Kirby, who's going to discuss sports business with us. Troy, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure, and thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, and it's always interesting to be the guest after being the host of my own podcast. So, you know, I usually get to ask the questions. Now I have to actually go in the octagon and answer.
Hey, I was checking you out on Twitter, Troy, and I must ask, why are you the most hated man in Montana?
Okay, so this started back in the 2000s. The Montana Grizzlies used to come over to Eastern Washington University, my alma mater, for every football game, they would sell out the stadium for us, and they would literally come in and, paint it as their own, essentially, with Washington's Grizzly Stadium.
Take over, in other words.
Oh, okay.
And take over.
Essentially, what I did was, and I was only one part of it, was put a restriction on tickets to where you had to be a season ticket holder before September 1st of the 2010 season, or you had to, donate. And the reason why was not to be malicious. It was our first game on red turf. It was our first game against the University of Montana. So our big problem was we had a lot of people interested, and we wanted to make sure that those people that were Eastern Washington University supporters could actually have a chance to come in and see the game.
Oh, so long before teams like the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks would kind of sway their marketing and their ticket distribution, so only Seahawks fans and only Broncos fans could have access to those tickets, there was you.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but what I would say is it was more to make sure that we actually had seats to sell for season tickets.
Okay.
The problem wasn't, and we had 22 games before or after September 1st before that game was played. So it wasn't like I was restricting it so nobody could ever buy tickets. I just said up to that point, and by the way, I was a person of one, a department of one. So it wasn't like we had a giant ticket office anyway at Eastern, because usually the football games and the basketball were our main revenue driver. So it was so I could actually help every single person. And I just said, hey, wait until this time. Well, it became such a big issue for a lot of the Montana folks that I guess are used to getting their way. That when September 1st happened, they flooded the ticket office, and they actually called the NCAA, and they actually called the conference office. And that's where, in the paper, it was listed me as the most hated man in Montana. And it was kind of, to me, it was kind of a joke. Some people have taken it, a little weird, like once in a while you'll get those angry emails. And once in a while I still get them. Now that I've even left the school, I still get them. And I still find it funny more than anything, because I always figure that every time you make a Grizz fan angry, and he gets his wings.
Just remember, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
That's right.
Well, yeah. So I mean, it was more fun than anything else. And what was funny about it was my biggest protector at the time, and the person that defended me the most, was Montana's AD, because he said, well, when they come over here, we're not just going to be giving their tickets willy nilly. We actually have to sell to our fans. So it's really about protecting your price point and making sure that you understand you have to do what's best for your overall audience. For us, we had never really protected our price point or sold to our fans to where they actually got a chance to come into the biggest game of the year every 2 years.
Wow.
And when we did that, we sold more season tickets to more of our Eastern fans, and we actually sold out 5 of those games that year. And the next year we sold out several games, even though we didn't have Montana on the schedule. That would not have happened had we not had the ability to sell to people when it was the best game of the year, who wanted to be there for us long term. It's great to make one game every 2 years your fundraiser, but it really undercuts your entire marketing effort.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in free tickets, and I don't believe in all that nonsense that somehow you're just going to get people to suddenly experience the product and randomly come out. That's not the way things work, especially in sports business. And I definitely believe that the proof is in the pudding. They've continued to have not only success on the field, but success off the field, where they've had success on the field previously, and they couldn't give away tickets. They couldn't respect that price point because people didn't believe in what they sold. And people didn't believe that when it came time to the best game of the year, they were going to get access to those types of tickets.
Hey, Troy, we got to mention this. I don't know if we did mention it at the top. Troy Kirby works with UC Davis, and small college sports is a big deal. Tell us about your job real quickly, and we'll get into some more topics, but I'm curious, how you ended up at Davis and what you're doing there.
Well, I think it's a transition point for every single, small school to make sure that you protect your price point. It doesn't matter if you're at, a school out in the middle of Timbuktu, upper Iowa's, I have a friend over there who's at a Division II right now selling Division II football, or, you're at Alabama. It still comes down to the idea that wherever you go and, wherever you are, you have to fit the culture. And part of the culture is to make sure that you respect price points, that you respect legacies, but you also sell the product right. And whether that product is in California, whether that product's in Pennsylvania or Florida, it still comes down to the small college atmosphere or even the big one. It comes down to the idea that you cannot be you cannot be disrespectful to the product. Being disrespectful to the product, I think, comes down to the idea of not really, selling it, giving it away or doing anything along those lines. And I think that's important to kind of realize wherever you're going, you have to make sure that don't treat it as a small college, because you never know whether or not they're going to have not only a good run, but they're going to have great customers there. You just have to respect all points in between. Too many people treat the small college or the small, the games as if they're not important. And if my friends at Gonzaga had ever done that, I don't think they would have ever been where they are, which is basically now, the circus comes to town every week when it's at a different school. And a lot of that's because you cannot get into Gonzaga basketball without paying. And before, when I was a kid, I used to go to Gonzaga basketball games. I saw Hank Gathers with 500 people when LMU played there. And you used to be able to walk in with one ticket and 22 people, and they probably let the 22 people.
Yeah, but then after Joakim Noah, though,
the mentalities, come back to respecting wherever you are and saying this institution has a legacy, this institution has pride in itself, as well as alumni and as well as fans. So when you do have those options of going to a smaller college or a better opportunity, you have to just say to yourself, this has to be your priority.
So what's the first step? I mean, do you have to research the market? Do you have to research the fan base in order to be able to set your pricing?
The first step, honestly, is to find out exactly what you're doing from day one. That means that, and here's the thing, everyone calls out the grandfather clause anytime that they don't get something for free. And I always notice that the grandfather clause only goes one way. The customer feels they should be given everything that somehow they were promised that was never in writing. But when it comes the other way, they're never going to have to be obligated to do anything. And you have to honestly say Grandpa died and move on. And I think that a lot of people do that. I have a friend over at Penn State right now who this weekend had a big issue. And it was an issue that kind of made a little bit of the national press, but made the local press there. And it was over basketball. And the fact was that at basketball, they have had to rely on the curtain being down in the upper bowl because they couldn't sell the lower bowl for their men's basketball game. Well, they still had some of that lower bowl still not sold out for Saturday's game. Come Saturday's game, all of a sudden this flood of people show up and they sell out the lower bowl.
Well, that's the
why don't they just open the upper bowl and all the curtains?
Yeah, but that's
hey guys.
Yeah, but isn't that the walk up though on the day of the game? I mean, I guess they got to factor in for that. Hey, by the way, was it Sandy Barber at Penn State?
Okay. Hey, Troy, wait, hold on. So stay with us. I got to cut to a commercial break. We come back.
I like him getting that one in, by the way.
Yeah, I want you to answer that
Well,
question.
she is at Penn State.
I know.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, so our trivia theme is the Super Bowl. The Cowboys were the first winner to return to the Super Bowl the following year and lose. They beat the Broncos, then they lost to the Steelers. Which team became the second to accomplish this feat? So again,
Say it again.
They were the first to win. The Cowboys were the first winner to return to the Super Bowl the following year
And then lose. Oh, okay.
And they beat the Broncos, and they lost to the Steelers. Which team became the second to accomplish the same feat? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
Good question.
Sorry, I had to cut you off there because we got
I
some
can
hard
see
breaks.
why Troy does a podcast, man. You're great.
Good.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay.
Man.
All right.
So, yeah, Vernon was mentioning Sandy Barber. Of course, about her.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, did she walk away with hardly anybody criticized her. And you know what really bothers me, Troy? Nobody criticized her, and nobody criticized Chris Cohan, and they were two of the most bumbling incompetents in the history of East Bay sports.
Yeah, but Cohan made money though.
I know, but
that's what he was all about.
He spent half his time in lawsuits. And I mean, he ran through so many coaches and so many players. It's amazing that people actually showed up to watch that inferior product that he put on the floor.
Yeah, but Troy, and I guess we can get into it. I mean, these owners. I mean, once the tickets are sold, once the seats are counted and taken for, that's really all that matters, doesn't it?
Wait, tell you what. Hey, Troy, don't I?
Also factoring in that
Sorry, I got a lot of them having in the studio.
Troy,
Okay,
let's
All right.
Answer that on the air.
We're coming out of the commercial break.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Let's
Now I'll let Vern ask you that question.
Yeah.
So let's answer the trivia first. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan. When we get to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question about the Super Bowl. The Cowboys were the first winner to return to the Super Bowl the following year and lose. They beat the Broncos, then they lost to the Steelers. Which team became the second to accomplish this feat?
I'm going to guess the Patriots.
No, the Redskins.
The
I was
Redskins.
going to say the
They
Redskins.
beat the
Okay.
Dolphins and they lost to the Raiders.
Yeah.
All right.
So now we are on the phone with Troy Kirby, who's talking sports business. Vern, you got a
Yeah, we
question
were
for us?
just getting into it, Troy. Yeah, we were talking about Penn State and the issue there and the curtains, and then the day of the game, you get this overflow of people that want to go. But you gotta factor in for that, right?
You know, but here's what I would say is, in a way, you've got to factor in for that. But in another way, you also have to respect the idea that if people are randomly showing up, you cannot assume that you're just going to be able to, tear down the curtains. If all of a sudden the lower bowl is not even sold out by game time or at game day. So when it comes out, sold out still means sold out. And with all the people that would have complained, the first thing I would have done is, send them mini pack information and said, I'm sorry, but we can't account for people that are going to randomly show up, because you're not just opening up the curtains. You're also talking about security for those areas. You're also talking about ushers. You're talking about a ton of information and a ton of different logistics that have to go in to opening up certain areas.
But
Well,
can't they just announce that the curtains are down there and they're going to just stay down there, and that only the lower bowl is going to be filled, and then maybe if they get some kind of advance since that, these tickets are just going like hotcakes, then maybe you open the
Well, they
curtain.
want people to buy ahead of time.
Because the Oakland A's do the same thing. They keep the tarp down.
What you have is demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The A's do that, and the Raiders haven't had to do it yet. But the Raiders, if you know this, and I'm sure you do, Troy, the Raiders have an area called Mount Davis, which is the third deck of the stadium, which was built specifically to accommodate them so that they would come back to Oakland. And now they can't sell it out, and the games aren't on local TV unless they're sold out. So now they've not only do the A's tarp off that area, but the Raiders tarp off that area. It's crazy.
Yeah, but in a way, is that something that they should leave open those areas to?
No.
What I'm saying is it's
that demand should never be there.
no. But I'm agreeing with you. But I'm just saying it's kind of crazy. The whole reason they came back was because they thought they could get 63,000. And they can get 53, which is what the stadium used to hold before it was ruined for football.
Well, maybe it'll go back to like the early 1900s when they had the World Series and they didn't have any stands in they didn't have any bleachers. They just let people sit in center field, just move it back a little bit.
In their horse and buggy,
Yeah.
right?
What you just said there is exactly what part of my argument is.
Yeah.
And
Things have changed.
Yeah.
With the addition of second screen and the fact that I can watch the Chicago Bulls or I can watch the New York Knicks or whoever I want on streaming, I think it's changed the ball game to where, if you notice, there are certain with new arenas and new stadiums, they're starting to grow smaller.
Yeah.
They're starting to grow more intimate in their factions. A lot of these stadiums that you're talking about, which have to use the tarp and have to use these things, were built at a time to where they really didn't have those types of issues. There was always an overflow of people, and there was always an estimation that people would show up.
Troy, I got to say that, personally, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but I like to sit and watch the game at home. Football, especially football, where I can stop, I can pause it, I can go to the bathroom, get a sandwich, sit in a lazy boy. I don't have the camaraderie of all the other people, but with home theater type stuff, I mean, it's a pretty nice gig.
And I agree with that to a certain extent, that you're going to have those people that really enjoy that type of experience. But that's where, selling the live experience comes into really understanding, how we have to change over the sales culture in general. If you're going to look about college athletics in general, 10 years ago, there was nobody earning a commission. There was 3 ticket managers likely at the biggest schools in the country. And now they've had to retrofit everything, do what has been done for 20 years at the professional level, which is to have a team of ticket salespeople that were earning commissions, or ticket salespeople that are actually outreaching to people. If you look at Arizona State right now, they have a team of probably 25 to 50 different people that are via contract from the Aspire group, which is a third-party group, to be able to go and sell their tickets to get paid commission and to really outreach to a lot of people where they would not have done that 20 years ago. They wouldn't have even done 10 years ago.
I know the Giants, since they've moved into their new stadium, and this is true with all the baseball teams, generally speaking, the Detroit Tigers, Baltimore, the Texas Rangers, they all moved into smaller, more intimate parks, nicer stadiums, fewer tickets. They create a demand, and the ballpark experience is what they're selling, and it's working. I mean, the Giants, I think, have sold out. I'm not sure if they sold out every game, but I doubt if they're not going to have any problems selling out.
Especially when they have a new stadium. The Candlestick was just a terrible place to have a game, whereas AT&T is really nice.
Back in the '60s, though, and I'm dating myself here. Candlestick Park was a great place to watch a game. Yeah, it was windy and cold, but it wasn't enclosed and turned into a multi-purpose stadium. When they enclosed it and brought the 49ers in, it ruined the whole ambiance, and it's not a surprise that that's when the Giants really started to struggle.
Bringing it back to where the game has changed quite a bit, and we've got these intimate ballparks. I want to get a sense from Troy. What's your take on dynamic pricing now? Because that's another little issue that's kind of created some chatter, some traction.
Well, two things. First of all, the first, you talk about dynamic ticket pricing. The visionary that is actually in the Bay, the person that deserves credit more than anything for being a visionary in our field, is the VP at tickets at the San Francisco Giants, Russ Stanley. I know everyone wants to give credit to Billy Beane for all that stuff on the field, all of those kinds of Moneyball stuff. But the true Moneyball has been Russ Stanley. He's the first one that saw secondary market as an asset. He saw it through StubHub before anybody else did, before even his colleagues did, and a lot of people in the industry kind of laughed it off when he was really joining with StubHub and working that out. And then when dynamic ticket pricing started, he was the first one to do it. And I'll tell you, even 2 years ago, I used to talk to executives who were kind of smirking about it, going, "Well, there's no really way that we're going dynamic." All of a sudden, the majority of teams are even going dynamic, and if you're going to even factor some of that, that even accounts for teams like football, which the whole notoriousness was that they were never able to go dynamic because there's too few of games. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is in the San Francisco Bay, or even Oakland, you have on the field that that technology is working. You also have off the field, which is in San Francisco. And if you even want to go further, if you want to go to what's really going to be the next big step, that's going to be down in San Diego. So the San Diego Padres right now have, and I'm not saying they figured it out like it's a big whitewash, but they've started to develop membership. Whereas instead of it being something that you just go to games and you buy your season tickets, there's year-round membership of who you are, how your relationship with the team is, and it's a big asset to get people off of their couch where you have the big HD TV and start to come to the stadium, as well as feel connected to those players, as well as feel connected to the coaches. And they actually have it to where if you call up and you have an issue and you're a member, they have it to where that membership line goes directly to an account rep who's a membership, a person, a coordinator, to allow you to be able to connect with those people, even if they're in any part of the stadium. So,
wow,
Bill Schlau, remember we had him on.
Yeah. California is actually leading a lot of sports business throughout the nation and throughout the world. If you're looking at some of the great things that we're doing.
Yeah, that's so important too, and I think we take it for granted. You have to have a good product on the field, but you also have to have people behind the scenes promoting it and making it accessible to the fans. And I know Edward likes to watch games at home. Vernon covers a lot of games and is also in the studio a lot. Me personally, I'd rather be at the game. Of course, I don't have to pay for tickets, so it's a pretty good deal. But I think the average fan really likes the game experience. It's very unique. It's a special night or day, whatever you.
Basketball. I like going to basketball. And I like going to baseball. But again, it depends on how close you live.
If you're close, if you're within an hour's drive. Yeah, it's a 6-hour commitment, though. 6-7 hour commitment. It's a day's commitment.
Like golf.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a commitment if you're, I have to tell you this, if you're in the media, it's a day's commitment because you're working there all day. But it's fun. This is why we do it. And this is why fans do it, because it gives them that relief. And I think that's important. Well, it's good that you figure these things out, too. I mean, there's a lot of sophistication behind the scenes going on here.
Well, one of my best friends is Night Train Beck, and you might recognize the last name because his grandfather happened to do a few things.
Oh,
Bill Beck?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And his father is actually, Mike Beck, who does a lot of crazy things still with the St. Paul Saints. And Night Train is does group sales for the Chicago White Sox. He does a lot of creative things. And I've got to tell you, it still comes down to how much fun are you having? are you making sure that everybody in that ballpark is enjoying themselves? And I think too often we view that sports events have to be the Louvre. Everyone has to be quiet.
You know, it's just like a lot of times in basketball during halftime. You know, they'll do T-shirts they throw into the audience.
Oh, sure.
And all that kind of stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, Troy, we're gonna have to cut to our next commercial break. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on. You got some kind of a website you want to share with us?
Sportstao.com, which is sports and then TAO.com. And I do a podcast there on sports business. I have a lot of different, blog posts, etc. And I got to break your hearts right now because I'm originally from Olympia, Washington, so I have to say go Seahawks. But
that's okay.
That's okay. I'm not an anti-Seahawks fan.
I do enjoy my friends over at the San Francisco 49ers, Guido, who's the COO. He's a great guy to meet and chat with, and I've enjoyed watching the San Francisco 49ers games as well. Hopefully they'll be good, next year because I love that run.
Well, we're gonna get into the Seahawks probably next segment.
Yeah.
But
okay, all right. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right.
It's interesting what you were saying about the Seahawks, though, because we have a lot of connections in the Bay Area. Richard Sherman, Doug Baldwin, Marshawn Lynch, and Pete Carroll, who I went to high school with. So,
all right, we'll get into that in just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, here was our second commercial break or trivia question. The Super Bowl. Before their run of dominance in the 1970s, the Pittsburgh Steelers were notable for having lost two quarterbacks who eventually went on to lead their respective teams to victory in the Super Bowl. Who are those two quarterbacks? All right.
well, I know one of them said two quarterbacks.
We got to cut right now. We'll be right back.
Okay.
but actually, Terry Hanratty didn't lead his team to a Super Bowl title, but did play in one of those games. But Bradshaw was the quarterback for all four. But Terry Hanratty.
I'll read the question again.
I think
Hanratty, and because Joe Gillum.
I think he was. I think the question was two guys that were once upon a time on the Steelers roster,
right,
who left the team, went to another team, and led their team
Correct.
to the Super Bowl.
That's the question.
That was the question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought
Who
you
were
said-
those quarterbacks?
Okay,
Exactly.
Guys that maybe started off in the Steeler organization, left, and then
Boy,
made something out of it. That I could
I
not
couldn't
tell you.
answer that one either.
Couldn't
I know.
do it. You definitely know the quarterbacks, but
Well, Terry
It's a tough-
Bradshaw
it's a
was
tough
the
question.
guy that led him to four, but he wasn't the guy that led Joe Gillum. No,
No.
he didn't lead anybody to anything.
and these guys, honestly, they're obviously household names, but I did not know that they were part of the Steelers organization.
Oh, I know who one of them was.
Okay, hold on.
I think. No, I'm not sure now.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown, Berglund, and Bruce McGowan here. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question about the Super Bowl.
This is a good question. This is a good one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before their run of dominance in the 1970s, so we have to go before the 1970s,
Right.
the Pittsburgh Steelers were notable for having lost two quarterbacks who eventually went on to lead their respective teams to victory in the Super Bowl. Who are those two quarterbacks?
I was going to say one of them might be Earl Morrall, but I know he played with the 49ers also and then played with the Colts and then the Dolphins.
Now, see, that would have been a good question,
Yeah.
but again, he wasn't with the Steelers.
No, not with the Steelers.
Johnny Unitas and Len Dawson.
Oh,
Son of a
yes.
gun.
That's
I
right.
didn't know that they were part of
Yeah, they were both.
I did know. Yeah, I knew he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And neither one of them really did much. I mean, Dawson played a little, Unitas hardly anything. He was cut. And Dawson went to the AFL because the opportunity was there.
Yeah. He gets the one Super Bowl for the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's right. And still doing broadcasting in Kansas City. He's on TV back there. He's been one of their color announcers for many years.
Yeah, in fact, he almost got in trouble, didn't he?
Yeah, that was a whole, that's a segment for another show.
Yeah.
Basically, there were alleged connections between him and gamblers. He is Mr. Clean.
He
believe me.
seems like he's Mr. Clean,
He
like
is.
Bart Starr, that sort
yeah,
of thing. So,
yeah, and he's a great guy.
How much did Unitas play in Super Bowl V? Probably not
Not
much.
Not much.
I mean, he was pretty.
He
Was
was
it
old
Earl
man.
Morrall that
Yeah.
did most of the?
Earl Morrall didn't.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Earl Morrall started
for the Dolphins.
for the Dolphins later, or not actually for the Dolphins. He played for the Dolphins, but he did not start in that game. But Unitas came on in relief in Super Bowl III.
Yeah, but they lost
But they
that one.
lost that
one,
game.
But
and
they
they
won
beat-
Super Bowl V.
And they won
beat
Super Bowl
the
V.
Cowboys with Earl Morrall.
with Earl Morrall
Yeah.
because Johnny got hurt early in the game. Yeah, I think he broke his ribs, and had a collapsed
right.
lung. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
Okay, that was kind of fun having Troy on.
Yeah, what a
that.
boy! You can see why he's got a podcast.
Yeah,
A font of information.
And he did a nice segue by mentioning the Seahawks at the tail end.
And I have to say, again, for those that are back east in the Midwest, they probably don't care, one way or another. But we're down here in San Francisco, and we got this great rivalry. And I like the Seahawks, and maybe it's because I worked up in Seattle, but Marshawn Lynch went to Cal. We covered him, and I know you got to know him a little bit. Richard Sherman, yeah, he's a bit of a talker, but he's a great player. Doug Baldwin made some great catches in the game, in the championship game. And let's not forget Pete Carroll, who a lot of people thought was mediocre as a head coach at New England and the Jets. And he came to the 49ers, was their defensive coordinator when they won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, from where we're doing this show, you probably threw a rock in the direction of Redwood High School, almost hit it where he played.
In Larkspur, just a few miles south of San Rafael.
But I give credit to Seattle, man. To me, my personal opinion, I thought it was more about the Packers choking that game than Seattle winning that game.
Well, let's get into that. Okay, because there's a whole bunch of things to talk about there. There's the and then I don't remember his name. I think he was a safety, right? Catches the ball for an interception and just falls down.
Yeah. Well, at the time,
run the ball back as far as he can, which then remember Packers went 3 and out,
right,
and gave the ball back, and that gave pretty decent field
position. But you have to feel confident at that time you're going to be able to at least move the ball. And at the time, I thought, good move. Sit down. Don't take a chance on fumbling the ball.
Okay. Why didn't they throw at Sherman, seeing as he was basically
playing with one arm? I have no idea.
It's a perfect storm of mistakes.
Yeah.
Perfect storm of mistakes, and it was
they gave the Packers 5 extra possessions,
and they got only 6 points out of it.
6 points out of it,
and their field goal kicker. I mean, what did he do? He got what did he shoot? What was it? 5 field goals, right?
Well, I give Mason Crosby credit. I mean, if Russell Wilson hadn't completed that zany schoolyard 2-point conversion.
That was crazy. That was crazy. And did you see? Did you see? Yeah, but the defender, he stumbled a little bit. I mean, he saw it happen and he stumbled, but he stumbled just enough. So by the time he got there, the ball was in the guy's hand. Crazy.
That doesn't make any
sense.
But
what I'm saying is, if he doesn't catch that ball for the 2-point conversion,
Mason
Crosby's field goal wins the game.
Let's go earlier in the game. It's 19-7.
Yeah.
They got him down 3rd and 19. And then Wilson's back in the pocket so long, you could have made a sandwich.
And they had 2-man rushing.
A 2-man rush.
2-man rush.
And then Baldwin catches the ball. And then I just couldn't believe what was happening.
Why do these guys, they play not to lose instead of playing to win? That happens too many times.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the Packers were playing well over their heads. I mean, they're a good team, but they were beating the best team in football in their house.
And they were playing conservative.
They were playing conservative.
Fourth down. I like when you're 4th and 2 inches on the goal line, you go for it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get it, then they're starting from their own
you get the ball back in all probability in great field position.
And you can start again.
And how many times did they get the ball in, on the Seahawks side of the field in great position, and they didn't take advantage.
It just tells you what a great defense Seattle has, and how they certainly rose to the occasion, scoring all those points in about 3 minutes time.
That was amazing
to really make something out of it. And I wonder how many people at Century Link Field left the game.
I don't
think it's over.
Probably a couple hundred.
They beat the traffic.
They showed a picture went viral of all these people who were starting to walk out.
Yeah, probably a couple hundred, couple thousand.
Oh yeah, I bet it was a few thousand.
Good. I hope they remember what they missed.
A friend of mine was at the Tom Dempsey game.
The 63-yard field goal,
and his family left early and listened to it on the radio.
Never do that. Never do that.
I'm going to give you guys a couple of things to think about. First of all, I mean, this is going to be a great matchup coming in with the Patriots. Between Browner and Rivas on one team, and you got Richard Sherman, and you've got Cam Cameron on the other. We're going to find out who really is the best. As far as shutting down. And you got Seattle, the #1 pass rushing team in the league, going up against a guy who plays like he's not getting a pass rush at all.
No, and this is his 6th Super Bowl. Nobody has ever taken a team to 6 Super Bowls. And Tom Brady is what is he, 36, 37?
Like that,
And he's still at the peak of his.
He's got a chance to tie his boyhood idol, Joe Montana, with 4
rings.
Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
Definitely, I do think it is the 2 best teams. Indianapolis is good, but they just didn't quite do it. Now, and of course, the biggest snafu, unfortunately, Bostic. Do you think
You're talking about the
muffed
onside
man.
kick?
Yeah.
I feel so bad for him.
Well, the guy was standing right behind him was the receiver who was going to catch the ball, and I think he got overreaction. Not only did he muff it, I don't even think he got his hands on it. Hit him in the face.
He hit him right in the face.
Yeah, hit him in the mask.
So
went right through the hands.
Yeah.
It never even touched.
God, and he was getting. I remember seeing the coach just yelling at him on the sideline.
Oh.
What were you doing?
Oh man!
Poor guy. And here's the thing: when Mason Crosby kicked that game-tying field goal, he's probably thinking, "Oh, thank God! Now we got overtime. We got a chance." And then they give up the score.
Right
What 5? What was it? 6-play drive? 5-play drive?
Something like that. Now,
Russell Wilson 6 for 7 on his last few throws.
Yeah, he knew he was good, man. I got to do it now.
Yeah, he was having a terrible game, and he was bound to turn it around.
Yeah. And now, 1972, and this I still have bad memories of this. The 49ers basically had blown an onside kick.
That was the same day, the playoffs, the same day as the Immaculate Reception. I remember watching.
That's right. That was the same
I
day.
remember watching the Raiders lose that game on television, and then listening, because they didn't in those days, they blacked out the home games, listening to the 49ers lose, and it was absolutely horrific. And the headline in the paper the next day in the San Francisco Examiner, sad Saturday, big black, heavy headlines.
Like the World War II
Yeah,
size
yeah.
Oh my
type.
Oh my
Both
God.
Oh, man.
teams and the way they lost.
Saturday.
Now, and who was the guy on the 49ers?
Preston Riley,
Right,
tight
okay.
end, backup tight end. He fumbled the onside kickoff, giving Roger Staubach one more chance, and they took him 3 plays or 4 plays to get in the end zone.
So, and as I remember, he got death threats.
Roger Staubach?
No.
Oh, Preston Riley. Yeah.
And
No,
in fact,
not
I
a
don't know if he had
surprise.
to move, but he got death threats. So,
Yeah.
my question is
That happens.
Bostic going to get the same thing?
Yeah.
Because you've got maybe the odds makers situation. They didn't beat they didn't beat it anyway, right? Because
they
were
won by
favored
6
7.
and
So that end
Yeah.
may not have changed, but you just get people who do straight up bets or whatever.
Sure.
And I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, definitely it's a bonehead play, but
He joins the list of boneheads.
If he grabs it, it's over.
I mean, Leon Lett. We all remember Leon Lett, who got the ball knocked out of his hand at the goal line. But the thing was, Dallas won that game 52-17 or something.
They lost the Thanksgiving game in the snow.
Right.
But it wasn't that important.
But that was a different game that Leon Lett screwed up. I'm talking about the Super Bowl where he had the ball knocked out of his
that's
hand
just stupidity.
when he was just holding it down.
Yeah, they just destroyed. Don Beebe had knocked it out.
That's right.
But that play didn't matter. It just made him look stupid.
It just made him look stupid. This was a killer.
Yeah.
I mean, this was just. I feel badly for the guy too. It's like the Fred Merkel boner, or the Steve Bartman interfering with Moises Alou. I mean, it's just poor Steve Bartman. God, how'd you like to be in his shoes?
Well, that guy, he literally had to change his identity and move out.
Yeah.
Imagine just being this guy who just goes to a game.
Well, the ball's coming to you. What are you supposed to do? Back off. But yes, you are, because it's a critical moment, and Moises Alou could have reached in and caught it. So these things happen.
There's some that think that was not catchable by Alou.
You watch the replay. It would have been a difficult play, but it was catchable. And if you're a fan, you've got to move out of the way. But the instinct of anybody when you see a ball coming is to catch it, even if it's your team.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if you remember, a couple of plays later, there was the shortstop had made at least one error.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those situations where
the floodgates open.
Yeah. And had that not happened, all was forgiven.
Well, and again with Bostic, I mean, Russell Wilson had to engineer that great drive downfield. They had to score. They had to get the 2-point conversion, and they had to score in overtime. I mean, that wasn't Bostic's fault. Unfortunately, he set it up.
And wasn't there a penalty against Green Bay? Some unsportsmanlike conduct.
Oh, there were. That game. I don't know, Vernon, how you saw it, but to me, that game, as exciting as it was full of more mistakes, more penalties, more turnovers than any other championship game I've ever seen. Yeah. But it was compelling. But it was sloppy.
Sloppily played, but it created great theater at the end.
Yeah.
And are the coaches? I mean, did anyone going to lose their job because of this?
No. Mike McCarthy's not going to lose his job. Although, can you imagine the plane flight back to Green Bay?
I bet it was quiet as a mouse, man.
Ooh. And I wonder if they had any fans waiting for him at the gate. Because people usually show up when
a few, probably, but man.
But But then also, it's like, how do you deal with a guy like Bostic, who barely, if I remember reading correctly, he hardly played at all.
Yeah.
This would have been a great show to have a sports psychologist on.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Wow.
Just to kind of climb inside their head.
Yeah.
Just
We have
what would
time.
you tell them?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, what would you tell them?
Remind me. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
get someone on next week because the Super Bowl's an extra week.
We got
away.
plenty of time.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
All
All right, guys. In fact, what's interesting is the Seahawks win. Now, this was their, talking about the first playoff one, was the first since 2005 that the reigning Super Bowl champs won a playoff game.
Really?
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the great thing about the 21st century. There hasn't been the last team to repeat Super Bowl victories back to back, I believe, were the Broncos in 97, 98. We've had a different Super Bowl winner ever since.
Ever since then.
That's right, because the Patriots didn't win back to back,
No.
did they?
Well, oh no, I take that back. They did. I was
They did.
wrong. Okay, I stand
Yeah,
corrected.
I thought
Patriots
they
in
did.
03 and 04. But yeah, I mean, they're the only team.
Yeah.
And there have been some great games this century. I think the
Yeah.
Super Bowl has been better this century than it was in the previous.
Oh, definitely. I remember watching Super Bowls and going, gosh darn it, this isn't very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to cut to our third commercial break. Final trivia question. The Super Bowl is the topic. Who was the starting quarterback for the Vikings in their loss to the Chiefs in Super Bowl IV?
One of my favorite guys.
Yeah.
I figured you know this one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I had to give
Yep.
you one easy one.
Yep. I've been to his restaurant.
Yeah.
Ah, this
Yeah.
is too easy. Then.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you. Okay, what's the Social Security number? I'll give you a harder question there. All right, so here's the question: Who was the starting
570. No, just kidding.
It's got a 3 in there
Yeah.
somewhere. Who was the starting quarterback for the Vikings in their loss to the Chiefs in Super Bowl IV? Now, obviously, the answer is not Fran Tarkenton.
No.
It was the other 3 times that they
The
lost.
bear will never die.
That's right. The bear will never
Stay with us.
die.
Sports Econ 101 will have some closing comments.
Nobody will
Yeah,
get that hint back in
No.
Sheboygan,
No.
Illinois, or wherever.
In fact, didn't I see a little YouTube thing where he was beating up on some guy who weighed about 400 pounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some guy he was mad at from way back when, and they were on stage, and he wailed at him.
Yeah.
Joe is an interesting guy.
In fact, the guy wanted to extend like an olive. He brought an olive branch or something like that.
With his cane.
Yeah, and then
I don't know
Joe's
what-
an interesting guy. I won't mention this on here, but I sat next to him at the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame dinner,
Uh-huh.
and his hearing is not very good. We're in the back. We're in one of these tables in the back. He's right next to me, and the nominees are getting up and they're being presented. And he's saying it, not loud enough to be heard. Maybe just the film. Shut up and get on with it. And then he. I mean, that's Joe.
Did he just not like who was being nominated?
No, Joe is an old cantankerous, SOB. He's just.
Wasn't always like that, was he?
Oh yeah, he's always been that way. He's a
Yeah,
great guy, but he's just cantankerous. He's argumentative and he's contrarian.
He was a good quarterback, though.
He was a
really
great
like
guy. He
him.
was tough.
Yeah.
Tough, dude.
Good guy too.
Good
right?
guy. Yeah, he is a good
In
guy.
fact, a big guy. Yeah.
No, not that big. He's about 6'1", about 190, 200 pounds. He was an extra in the movie, the one about the prison football team that Burt Reynolds was in.
Longest yard.
Longest Yard. He was one of the guys who played the prison guards. He was one of the main guys.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he played that role, and there were a couple other.
Well,
Ray
Nitschke
Nitschke was in
he
that.
actually had a line.
And there was also, I think, not Ben Davidson, but he played in a couple movies. But
Oh
there were
yeah,
two other
Gentle
guys.
Ben.
Yeah. Oh, I wish
He was a dirty
I
player.
wish if we could still get him on. Actually, he wasn't. He died about 3 years ago. He was only about 64. Yeah, well, football.
No,
NFL,
no.
yeah.
He could have. If he died a few years ago, he couldn't have. Only
Well,
been
he was all right. He was
64.
close to 70, but he
At
wasn't much
least.
more. Yeah, he was. He started playing in '63, so do the math. He was born in 1941,
Yeah,
so
70.
yeah, about 70.
So, oh, yeah.
2011, yeah.
I just
These
remember
guys,
him from
these
a long
guys
time ago.
I hate that. I'm not going to say this on the air, but I just talked to George Atkinson, Dave Grayson, who was an All-Pro, AFL 6-time All-Pro. He's just completely gone now. He's 70 years old. He's got terrible Alzheimer's.
We gotta remember, these guys get so
Yeah.
your brain can only take so much.
Yeah, you get your bell rung, right?
Can you imagine that? The old helmet.
I was watching the Muhammad Ali documentary the other night because his birthday was Saturday,
Yeah. He's got to be 70.
and guy, you could just see from this documentary. It was a great documentary. I can send you the link, but it ran right through his career, and you could just you could just see how slow his verbiage was. Now, granted, these interviews were done like with Howard himself right after a fight, so he's all tired anyway. But man,
he took a lot of punishment,
Great
especially when he fought Foreman. Remember, he just took all those blows from Foreman, but he kind of got glancing blows, but there was still any kind of hit from George Foreman.
Yeah.
I did not know he fought. I did not know. He fought after. I didn't know he fought Ernie Shavers after that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And
Ernie
that
Shavers.
That was his last fight.
That guy was a brute.
He was a brute. Yeah.
He was a big.
Because he had told Howard he's going to fight Holmes, and that was going to be it. And then he came back and fought again, and that was it.
Yeah. He fought till he was 38. But you have to remember that his prime years were taken away because he refused induction into the Armed Services.
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
He was Foreman fought into his 50s, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was, I
kind of getting second stringer type.
Yeah, I mean, I give him credit, But
Oh yeah.
give him credit. And he's such a nice guy now. Like when he was a young guy, he was not a.
No, he was.
He was a nasty dude.
Mellowing him out.
Yeah.
I remember when George Foreman made a guest appearance on Sanford and Son,
Oh,
and
geez.
Fred Sanford was trying to train him for something, and he made him hit this wall, and he put his fist to the wall. And, oh man, I think I broke my hand. Oh,
Who was it? Red Fox.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
love
was
that guy.
funny.
And who was the son?
Lamont,
But I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
Lamont Wilson, Lamont.
Yeah.
Damon Wilson
Lamont Wilson.
Yeah.
played Lamont.
Red Fox.
I'm coming, Elizabeth. It's the big one.
The big one.
Red Fox. God, what a great comedian.
It's funny, I never liked the show, but I always liked him.
Oh, he made the show.
Yeah.
He did.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for the show, I'm Edward Brown, your host, and we've got Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn.
Down the stretch we go.
Okay, here's our third final commercial break. We asked an easy one here. Who was the starting quarterback for the Vikings in their loss to the Chiefs in Super Bowl IV?
I'm going to let Vernon answer, but I will say this. He played for Cal. He also was the coach of Cal when they had the great play that Stanford fans hate to remember, where there was 5 laterals and Cal scored in the last play of the game in the big game versus
A friend
Stanford.
of mine was a middle linebacker during that game.
And Joe Cap was also in a movie called The Longest Yard, where he played one of the prison guards. I just gave his name.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vernon, that was faux pas.
Joe Cap, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Cap.
But
Number
tell me a little,
11.
Number 11. Tell me a little story about Joe Cap, Vernon, because you've gotten to know him pretty well, and so have I. But do you have any little...
Joe was part of one of my at the time I was at Channel 4. Joe was involved in one of my little Mr. Involvement shoots, my little reporter involvement shoots. It was a dream sequence. It was the week of the big game. This is before the Cal Stanford game, and we were talking about the play, and Joe says, "Vern, can you imagine being part of that history?" And so I kind of have a far off look and start rubbing my chin, and the screen gets kind of fuzzy, and the next thing you know, it's Joe Starkey's call on the play, and then the ball is kicked, and then it comes to me, shows me, and then I'm running. I run off camera, and I throw the ball, and then I catch it. So I play every guy that touched the ball.
Can we YouTube that one?
It might be on there. I don't know.
That was probably back in the early 90s. Huh?
That was it was good.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna have to cut to our thoughts for the day here. It isn't hard to be good from time to time in sports. What is tough is being good every day. Who said that?
Oh, that's a good quote. I have no idea.
One of your favorites, one of my favorites, Willie Mays.
Willie Mays. Yeah.
And John Wooden said, "Make sure that team members know that they're working with you, not for you."
The two best guys in their respective businesses. No better college coach than John Wooden, no better baseball player than Willie Mays.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then Pete Carroll, I bet he's kind of like that too.
Yeah.
All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll try to get a sports psychologist on, talk about Boston. That'd be kind of tough. All right, let's see. We're going to discuss sports topics from a business perspective and give away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
Joe Kirsch, actually, if you want to get a good, he'd be excellent. I mean,
Who?
Dr.